When I walked into the lawyer's office, that rainy Tuesday morning, I wasn't carrying a briefcase full of documents or a stack of legal papers. I was carrying an old shoebox. The box was faded, its corners worn from age. To most people, probably looked like in a dusty attic, but to me, it was priceless. The receptionist glanced at it curiously before asking me to take a seat. A few minutes later, I found myself sitting across from Mr. Anderson, one of the most respected lawyers in Chicago. He opened a thick file and sighed. "Mrs. Carter, I'll be honest with you," he said. "Your case isn't strong." My stomach tightened. For 6 months, I had been fighting my older brother, Daniel, over our father's estate. After Dad passed away, Daniel suddenly produced a will claiming he had inherited everything. The family house, the savings, these nests, everything. According to that document, I wasn't supposed to receive a single dollar. It made no sense. My father had always treated us equally. Even in his final days, he constantly reminded us that family mattered more than money. Yet, somehow, Daniel expected everyone to believe that Dad had left me with nothing. Mr. Anderson closed the file. Without evidence, the court will likely accept the will. I looked down at the shoebox, resting on my lap. The same box my father had kept hidden in his bedroom closet for years. The same box I had discovered while cleaning his house after the funeral. At the time, I thought it contained nothing more than old family memories. Now I wasn't so sure. "What do you have there?" the lawyer asked. I slowly placed the box on his desk. "My father's belongings." He raised an eyebrow. "Photos?" "Letters, cards, things he saved." Mr. Anderson opened the lid. At first, he looked disappointed. Inside were birthday cards, childhood drawings, family photographs, and dozens of yellowed envelopes. Nothing that looked important. Then he picked up one envelope and began reading. A few seconds later, his expression changed. He reached for another letter, then another. The room suddenly became silent. And for the first time since I walked in, the lawyer looked genuinely shocked. Mr. Anderson carefully opened another envelope. Then another. Another. For several minutes, he didn't say a single word. The only sound in the room was the rustling of old paper. My heart pounded harder with every second. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "What's wrong?" I asked nervously. The lawyer looked up at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Mrs. Carter, where did you find these?" "In my father's closet," I replied. "Why?" Instead of answering, he handed me one of the letters. I immediately recognized my father's handwriting. It was a letter he had written years before his death. But something attached to the last page caught my attention. "Anna Seal." I blinked in surprise. Then I looked closer. The letter clearly stated that my father wanted everything he owned to be divided equally between Daniel and me. My hands started shaking. What does this mean? Mr. Anderson quickly searched through more documents. To my amazement, several other letters contained similar statements. Each was written in a different year. Each repeated the same wish. And each carried an official notarized seal. The lawyer leaned back in his chair. "I've never seen anything like this. Can these help my case?" I asked. A slow smile appeared on his face. Oh, they can do much more than help. For the first time in months, I felt hope. A few weeks later, we appeared in court. Daniel sat confidently beside his attorney, acting as if the outcome was already decided. Then Mr. Anderson stood and presented the letters from the shoebox. One by one, the judge examined them. The courtroom grew quieter with every page. Daniel's confident smile slowly disappeared. The judge frowned and looked directly at him. These documents directly contradict the will you submitted. Daniel's face turned pale. At that moment, everyone in the courtroom realized something was terribly wrong. An investigation was ordered immediately. And as the truth slowly began to emerge, my brother knew his secret would not stay hidden much longer. The investigation moved quickly. Experts examined every document, signature, and record connected to my father's estate. For weeks, Daniel avoided my calls and refused to look at me whenever we met in court. Deep down, I think he already knew the truth was catching up to him. Then the results finally came. The will Daniel had submitted was not authentic. Parts of it had been altered after my father's death. The signatures on several pages had been copied and manipulated to make it appear as though Dad had left everything to him. When the evidence was presented in court, the room fell silent. The judge looked disappointed. "Mr. Carter," he said, "this court finds clear evidence that the will was fraudulently altered." Daniel lowered his head. For the first time, he had nothing to say. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt heartbroken. This wasn't a stranger who had betrayed us. It was my brother. Someone I had grown up with, laughed with, and trusted. A few moments later, the judge announced the final ruling. The fraudulent will was rejected. My father's estate would be divided equally, exactly as he had stated in the notarized letters found inside the shoebox. The case was over. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was the truth. A week later, I visited my father's grave. The evening sun cast long shadows across the cemetery as I stood quietly beside his headstone. In my hands was one of the old letters, the same letter that had changed everything. Tears filled my eyes. "You were still protecting me," I whispered, "even after you were gone." A gentle breeze moved through the trees. For a moment, it felt as though Dad was there beside me. I smiled through my tears. The house, the savings, and the business were never the most valuable things he left behind. His greatest gift was his honesty, and thanks to an old shoebox full of forgotten memories, the truth finally found its way into the light. The lawyer went silent after seeing what I brought, because he realized that sometimes the strongest evidence isn't hidden in a legal file. It's hidden in the love someone leaves behind.